It's great being here with you. It's great having this opportunity for this webcast. Our topic is, of course, the digital heaven or immortal hell. It's a very dear topic to my heart since most of the people in the country know me as Mr. Magazine. And since the word magazine itself means a storehouse of information, so we are going to have a lot of fun with all the stuff that are inside that store, whether they are on the digital pixels on a screen or whether they are at the ink on paper magazine platform. The subtitle of the presentation today is Why Print Needs Print to Survive in a Digital Age. It's one of those premises that I do believe that we can't exist in a single medium anymore. We are now in the media business rather than in the medium business. This presentation is sponsored by Akamai Technologies, to whom I am very thankful that they made this presentation possible. Let's go ahead and start without any further introductions. You know, when you talk about the future, when we are talking about what's happening, what's the status of the media today, I always like to tell people there's two people who can tell you the future: God and a fool. And I know for sure that I'm not God. So from here on, everything you are going to be listening to comes from that other guy. You know, it's fun. How can you talk about the future? How can you predict the future? Well, before we actually talk about that, I want to bring your attention to something that I really truly believe in. I've always said, if I cannot survive today, do I really care what's going to happen tomorrow? So when I talk about the future, I'm talking about the future from the present tense, from the day, the necessity that we have to survive today in what we are doing. Because in our business, in the whole media business, the only constant in our business is change. And the question means, are you ready for this change? Does change mean digital only? Or change means everything that's taking place? So we are going to start from the very beginning. Like Julie Andrews would say, a very good place to start. I no longer believe that we are in this print versus digital, but rather print plus digital, where no one knows the future. I know one thing for sure, that if we look at our past, a lot of things have happened. A lot of new media were introduced, but not a single new medium killed the previous one. You know, even when we hear about or read about the demise of print and the end of this and the end of that, and people in our business, and that's a major problem in our business. People have the tendency to forget our institutional history. For example, a few weeks back, I read an article where the author was bemoaning the death of advertising in print media. And he said, if you are in the print business, have a seat, because the news I'm going to tell you is going to be shocking. Google advertising revenues in 2012 have exceeded all of print media advertising revenue in the United States. Let me repeat that. Google advertising revenues have exceeded all print media advertising revenues in the United States. And then the author went on to, proclaim the death of print. Well, guess what? In 1935, radio advertising exceeded all print media advertising in the United States. 1935. and print media continued to publish. In 1955, television advertising revenues exceeded all of that radio advertising revenues. Radio continued to be in existence. I mean, history is filled with lessons that show us not a single medium, new medium, have killed the previous one. Those who learned how to cope survived and still are flourishing and doing very well. Those who decided to compete against the new media committed suicide on their own. That's why I keep saying, like, when a magazine or a newspaper or a television station or radio station shuts down, they're not dying. They are committing suicide because they fail to learn how to complement the new stuff that's out there. We have to learn to live together. We have to learn to utilize every single new entity, every single new technology being created. We have to utilize it to serve one and only one thing: our customer. Whether that customer is a reader, a listener, a viewer, a user, you name it. We have to put everything to help that person. Which leads us to the theme of this whole webcast today. Are we doing the right thing between digital and print, or are we doing the wrong thing? Well, since people love to talk more about the wrong things more than the right, let's start there. There's this, and it's not new, there's this philosophy that if I stop my print publication, look how much money I can save on ink, on paper, on postage. And readers will read my magazine. I mean, if it's stopped in print, they will go to the web. They will go to the digital platforms. Well, so far, that has been a very, very wrong premise. Because if you think you cannot survive as a print entity, in print, where you only have 10,000 magazines to compete against, how are you going to survive on a digital platform where there is billions of apps and entities out there? Yes, you will save money on your printing and your postage, but there's no revenues. That digital heaven that you are dreaming of does not belong to those print entities that could not make it in print. Because if you cannot survive in print as a print entity, just folding your print product and going to the web or going to the iPads or going to any digital platform, smartphone, is just prolonging your death. Newsweek was one of the latest magazines to do such thing. They published their last print issue in the end of December, and they said they are going to be only digital now. Well, guess what? Some smart person in Lahore, Pakistan, decided there's still a big market for Newsweek in print. So he licensed the iPad edition, and Newsweek is back in print in 85 countries all around the world, with the exception, of course, of the United States. So the rumors of the death of Newsweek in print has been greatly exaggerated. But don't take my word for it. I mean, look, there's so many other folks who are saying the same thing. The problem is very few people are listening. I mean, if you cannot survive, if you have a loss of revenue in print, it's not going to come up from the web, or it's not going to come up from your digital or your iPad editions. The business model in the United States have been based for years on ad revenues. A lot of our magazines make 80, 85, 90% of their revenues from advertising. That money have not transferred itself to the web. When people stop advertising in print, it does not necessarily mean they are moving their budgets to the web, to digital. The economy is in bad shape. Magazine media have always been a want item, not a need item. So when the economy as a whole is bad, why should our business be any different than the rest of the economy? Why should we use those escape mechanism? Oh, let me kill the print edition, I can save so much money, and I will survive on the web. Well, history is showing us that it does not happen. Let's go back to 2006. Teen People magazine was one of the fastest growing teen magazine published. It reached 1.6 million circulation since its inception. And then in 2006, they decided, well, teenagers don't read, teenagers are more online, teenagers are more interested in doing things with their computers, laptops. So let's kill the print edition and just keep the magazine alive on the web. Well, if you look today, where is Teen People? It does not even exist. It is like maybe you can find something about it inside the pages of People magazine or inside the digital web of the People magazine. Out of sight, out of mind. And you know, Teen People is not the only one. Teen People is not the only magazine that's disappearing. Gourmet. In 2009, Condé Nast decided Gourmet is not going to be a print entity anymore. We are only going to be an app called Gourmet Life. And although Gourmet magazine had a circulation of 1 million when Condé Nast killed the magazine, you will be surprised how many phone calls, how many email messages I received, people saying, Samir, how can a magazine with 1 million circulation not survive? And you know, especially when you compare our market to the European market, to the Middle Eastern market, where like 1 million is like, wow. Well, were we serving our customer? Did we really know what our customer wants? Because at the same time Gourmet was killed, another magazine by the name of Food Network magazine came into the marketplace. And without much work, achieved 1.7 million circulation. Because they knew their customer, they followed their customer, they satisfied the wants and desires of their customers. Well, so in 2009, they killed Gourmet. In 2013, guess what? Officially, they scrapped Gourmet Live, and they decided that gourmet.com will continue to be updated as the main platform. Haven't we heard? I mean, how many times you've heard that before? I mean, I can cite one example after the other about magazines that died in print, or I like to use the word committed suicide, and decided they are going to enjoy that digital heaven, that they are no longer there. Reality Weekly, what hollered in 2011 that this is going to be the newest weekly, I mean the first weekly to be published in some time on the newsstands. David Becker, the CEO of American Media, publisher of Reality Weekly, said print remains one of our most effective mediums, which is why Reality Weekly will be a showcase launch of 2012. Well, sadly to say, Reality Weekly did not finish 2012. Before the year was over, the magazine was folded. They said they are going to be online only. Again, you've heard this before. We are folding the print edition. We are going to enjoy life in this digital heaven. Well, guess what? You can find it in the digital heaven. And of course, needless to say, it's no longer in the digital print heaven either. So, you need more examples? Elger, Cosmoger are no longer here. They're gone. PC Mag, Sporting News, US News and World Report are a shadow of their former self. You can barely find them. People are rarely talking about them. I mean, there is this amazing thing, like when you kill a brand, when you take it out of sight, don't expect people to follow you. People are not going to go there. There's more reasons for the digital to exist than just being a cemetery for dead print products. So, you know, a lot have been said about Newsweek. A lot has been said about the Daily Beast. But what I cannot understand and will never be able to understand, why would anyone with the right frame of mind kill an established brand that has been a cornerstone of the magazine media for 80 years and replace it with a new brand that's still probably drinking baby milk or to survive? And again, I mean, that's what happened with Newsweek. And as I mentioned, as I said, I mean, 85 countries are now receiving the print edition of Newsweek, where here it's now just found on the News Beast. So what's the moral of the story? Why am I saying this? Well, to me, the reason for all the magazines that are dying, newspapers, is the same reason when hundreds of television programs have come and gone. They do not connect with their customers. They lose their connectivity with their audience. They lose that relationship. So when you start really thinking about it, I mean, take for example, television. Can you count how many TV programs have started and ended? Yet, when was the last time you heard anybody telling you television is dead because this program died or that program died? Why do people test television programs, pull the plug on them? Because of the lack of connectivity. The same thing should be with the magazine media, with the newspapers. Why do we refuse to accept the fact that there's a life cycle for everything that we do? There's a life cycle. There's a beginning and there's an end. So really, it makes no difference whether you're in print or digital. If you do not connect with your audience, you're going to die. Remember Murdoch's The Daily? The newspaper that was only an app, only digital. It died. It could not make it. Do you hear anybody telling you digital is dead? No. So we have to be really careful on how we put our entire media business in perspective, because we are in trouble. I mean, anytime I fail to connect with my audience, with my customers, and as I mentioned, customers can be users, customers can be readers, customers can be viewers, listeners, you name it. But if I lose that connectivity, the digital heaven online is not going to save it. If it cannot save its own, you know, all these digital properties that are coming and leaving, how can it save somebody who already died once? So to me, my advice to anybody who's willing to listen, if your print medium loses its connectivity with an audience, if it cannot survive in print, transplanting it to that digital heaven is not going to help. Let your magazine die in peace. Don't torture it anymore. Do it a favor. Kill it. So, on that positive note then, what's happening to print in this digital age? One of the things that I always tease my kids with is I always show them letters from my dad, show them cards from my wife, certificates I received, degrees I received. And I ask them how often do they print my text messages telling them I love them, my emails to them, you name it. And they laugh. When you really want to talk about the power of print in a digital age, you have to offer more than the normal thing. You cannot anymore just be a news vehicle. I mean, that's what I tell my friends in the newspaper industry. The word news and paper is an oxymoron. We have to stop chasing the news. You have to give me something that's so timeless, so collectible, that it has a value, that it will differentiate itself from those fleeing pixels on a screen. Look at Touchdown magazine. I mean, here's a magazine that came right before the Super Bowl, where everybody in the country was transfixed on the screen watching the Super Bowl, whether on their iPhones, on their television screens, on their laptops, iPads, you name it. That magazine came out and said, hey folks, I have something for your coffee table. I have a magazine that is going to have every single Super Bowl played from number 1 to number 46. In one collector's edition, you can look at it, you can collect all 4 covers, have a conversation at home. When people come to your home, they see it on your coffee table, they start asking about their favorite team, what happened here, what happened there. Print in a digital age does not only live in the past or in the moment. It's becoming that connectivity between our past and our future, yet you can access it exactly in the same time we are looking at it. The other thing that I like to talk about is, what about privacy? What about hackers? I mean, when was the last time your print magazine media was hacked? We've been hearing a lot of hacking computers at the New York Times, at the Wall Street Journal. You know, sometimes it's the Chinese conspiracy of hacking, sometimes this or that. You never heard about that when you are dealing with print. And the funny part, the funny thing is, do you know that the hacker community have their own print magazine? I guess they don't trust to have a website so it won't be hacked. yet they have a print magazine called Hacker Quarterly. But in addition to that, every time, and this is going to be a major problem in the near future, with the more companies merging with each other, especially if this like merger between Time Inc. and Meredith take place, can you imagine the amount of data those two companies combined will have? They will be technically your big brother. Every time you go to a computer, to a laptop, to an iPhone, every time you use a credit card, every time you use one of those saving cards at a grocery store, Big Brother is watching. Big Brother is taking all the information, everything about you. What are you ready to do when all of that information about you is public knowledge? One of the things I like to joke with people and say, like, you know, even if I want to look at a porno site, I'd rather go buy a magazine, look at it, and throw it, than go to a website where somebody is tracking my IP address. Same thing if you want to do anything that somebody can sniff there's some illegality to it. Would you do it online? Would you reveal all that private moments of your life online? Or you would rather find something else? But that's not the issue here. The issue of this whole message today is summed with what Mr. Gooden said: finding new ways, more clever ways to interrupt people does not work. People are creatures of habit. People are creatures of habit. We have to work with them. We have to understand. We have to understand our audiences. It is so important as we talk about this digital heaven. It is so important to understand your customer, your audience of one, to find out what that audience is really looking for. Because, you know, one of the things that bothers me about all the new platforms, they all come in one size. Yes, when there's a mini iPad 7 inches, a big iPad 10 inches, you name it. But when you look at what we've been used to, what we've seen, what our senses have adjusted to, big magazines, thick magazines, small magazines, square magazines, you name it, it's not the same of having this just like flat, everything comes in one size. So yes, there is advantages for print, and yes, there is disadvantages for print. That's why I'm saying it's no longer an either or. I mean, my grandson, Mr. Magazine Jr., is 5 years old, loves his iPad, watch movies on it, plays his Angry Birds, you name it. But when it comes his time to go to bed, he goes to his bookshelf, pick up few books, gives to his mama, and asks her to read some books for him. And guess what? Not in a single moment he's saying, Mom, I'm now turning from a digital platform to an analog platform. I'm tired from the pixels on the screen. I would like some ink on paper. We, the digital immigrants, are the ones who are creating those terms, who are creating those differentiations. We, the parents, who are telling our kids, okay, enough, you spend enough time on your iPad, you did this, you did that. But we never tell them, yet, you're spending too much time with a book. You've read too much. It's enough. So as we balance the things between the digital natives and the digital immigrants. Should the power of print be like versus the power of digital? Should we preach the gospel of print as the enemy of the gospel of digital? I don't think so. You know, yes, my name is Mr. Magazine, and it's a trademark, and I'm a firm believer in the future of print. But the day that I will start preaching print as an antidote for digital, or vice versa, is the day that I will not even exist. Because to me, the most important thing is digital is stronger with print and print is stronger with digital. It has to be print plus digital. We cannot anymore be an either or. If we really care about our audience, if we really care about our customer, we have to deliver to that customer exactly what the customer wants. And notice, I keep on saying want, because I truly believe if I give my customer what they want, they will find what they need. I'm a true believer in catering to the wants and desires of our customers. Because if they are smart enough to follow me, if they are smart enough to buy me, if they are smart enough to watch me, to interact with me, I truly believe they are smart enough to take what they want and find in it what they need. That's why it is so important for me, so essential for me, that we have to coexist. We have to study each one of the media and find what are the communalities. And those communalities are not going to start from me as the creator of the medium. They have to start with the masses. They have to start with the audience. They have to start, we have to stop treating digital as that mistress and spending all that money on her, on the expense of print. The two must exist together. The two must be side by side. It's not an either or. It's not like, okay, look what I have here, let me start spending. No. As our business model changes, and if you really think about how the business model is changing in our industry. We used to be in the business of selling content. Even before that, in the heydays of newspapers, which I don't know, I don't like to use the phrase in the good old days. I have no earthly idea sometimes what was good about the old days, but it's a phrase. People did not know what was going on until they get the newspaper. So the newspaper was needed. There was a need. Now I know what's going on as it's happening, because every smart aleck who can put 140 characters together can or may call himself a journalist, telling me exactly what's happening. Now, can I trust every smart aleck? No. But do I still wait for my newspaper to know what's going on? No. There's enough trusted sources out there. So the days where I used to be in the business of selling content, which by the way is a title of one of my books that I wrote about packaging information, those days are gone. We are no longer just content creators. We cannot afford to be just in the business of selling content. Now I am in the business of engaging with my customers. I'm in the business of content. I'm in the business of customers. I'm in the business of communities. And I'm in the business of commerce. Those 4 C's are going to be so important to what I'm doing. Because if I want to give my customer what they deserve, I have to give them content. I have to give them commerce. I have to give them community relationships. It's no longer an either or. And the beauty of what digital can offer is amazing if we use it for the right thing. David Carey, the president of Hearst magazines, gave an interview to the Wall Street Journal 3 days ago. And he's saying that, when people subscribe to Cosmo, the first year they can pay $10 and get Cosmo. The digital, on the other hand, is $19.99, almost double the price. See, one of the reasons I respect David and his approach at Hearst, he never gave the whole store away. One time I asked him, I had the opportunity to meet with David, and we were talking about why, when I subscribe to the print edition of this magazine, all of a sudden I have an access for everything. And his example for me was very simple. He said, Samir, you go to iTunes, you buy a song or buy an album, you pay for it. Guess what? iTunes is not going to send you the CD. If you want a hard CD, you go to Walmart or a music store and buy it. Same thing with if you buy something for your Kindle or for your Nook or for your iPad, they're not going to send you the print edition of what you bought. You have to go buy it. Everything has an audience, everything has a price. That's good, smart usage of the technology, good, smart usage of digital. Don't give me everything for one price, because I'm not the same customer. That's why it is so important to invest in print also. Then that's exactly what Hearst is doing. They have changed the paperweight on a lot of their magazines, changed the size of a lot of their magazines. They are investing in print because print is still their bread and butter, their revenue. In fact, in another interview, Mr. Carey mentioned that the total revenue from digital now at Hearst is 3%. 3% is nothing compared to the 97% of the revenue that's coming from print. So do not ignore, my message to you today, do not ignore what you are dealing with. Do not just focus that, all the future is going to be digital. Nothing is going to take away from the power of print, the power of digital. That's why I'm saying bring digital into the family fold. Digital should not be neither a mistress or a foreign entity. Bring them together. We need each other to survive. We need to be part of that same one family. It is important, rather it's even essential, that we have to be together, not separate from each other. The future is not either or, it's both. But a word of caution. Do not use print just to promote digital. You have to use digital to also promote print. If we really are truly believers in both of those entities, we have to create a two-way street. We have to create print that's timely and collectible. We have to create digital that's lively and movable. And we have to send people both ways, in both directions. We have to ask people to go from here to there and back. One of the biggest mistakes that we've done is we use print to promote a digital future. But we never send people back from that jungle out there to print. Now things are changing. With the introduction of what I like to refer to as print integrated, with the many new softwares that you can actually bring your pages to life. There's a lot of ways for those two entities to live together. It's not just a digital heaven. It's not a print hell. We are one family. If we are in the business of being content curators, solution creators, and experience makers, we are going to have a great future. Very simple. In fact, it's just common sense. Well, we are approaching the end here, and I would like to focus a little bit more that remind print and digital are going to coexist. That's my message to you. You have to remember, you have to really remember that those two entities are inseparable. Both of them need each other to survive, to stay together. And so, as we close, I just want to thank also On-Stream Media, who actually helped with this webcast and hosted the webcast. And I think we have some time for a few questions, so I'll be more than glad to answer some of your questions. Thank you very much, and just remember, it's all just common sense. The first question that I have here is, are there any digital-only magazines that have been successful? And my answer to that is, not that I know of. There's a lot of digital magazines. There's plenty out there. But how do we define success? I mean, to me, just being there is a good start towards success, that you are still surviving. But when you think about the difficulties of marketing and bringing attention to your publication, it's next to impossible. That's what I keep telling people. One of the things that people think, oh, but it's so cheap. Yeah, I know it's so cheap. But who knows about you? Who is out there that know about your entity and following your entity? If folks like Murdoch could not survive with a digital-only newspaper, or even the Huffington Post, who launched a weekly magazine and after only a few weeks stopped charging for it, how do we define success? I'm one of those people who believe that there's a lot of folks who tell you, oh, I mean, but look at my successful magazine. It looks great, but digital-only magazines are exactly like blogs. Do you know that the average reader of a blog in the United States of America is like 1.2 readers? You and maybe your mom or dad will read something from what you've written. Because there's billions, not even millions, there's billions of stuff out there. The challenge with the digital only is marketing. If you think you are saving on ink on paper or postage, just think how much it will take you to pay for marketing so people will know all about you. Second question here, how can you ensure that print and digital can coexist with one another? Very simple. Stop fighting each other. Stop considering that digital is my enemy or print is my enemy. I mean, it's very simple. When when television first came, I never told my dad I would like to watch radio with pictures. It was television. There was never that fight. Even when television became the mass media in this country, the magazines that fought it were the magazines that vanished. The magazines that complemented it, the magazine that start utilizing it exactly like we utilize like cable, and the introduction of all these specializations have thrived and survived. So, I mean, to me, I know this may be very simple to say, but for them to coexist, they have to stop fighting and complementing each other. Another question, with the younger generations being immersed in digital technology, how do you make sure they know about the importance of print as well? Again, stop treating it as the enemy. I mean, my grandson, he's the perfect example. He loves his iPad. You name the Angry Birds game, he has it on his iPad. He watches his movies on the iPad. Yet, his books are a completely separate entity. His magazines are a completely separate entity. I think we are the ones that are creating this myth that you have to be either or. Don't we all still listen to radio? Don't we all still watch television? Yeah, the screens are different, but that's the beauty of the things, that we don't look at those things as competitors. We look at them as just complementing each other. Another question, are there interesting differences in selling propositions to advertisers for digital versus print? Well, again, that's very important, because we are finding the measurements are very important. The measurements, I mean, can we measure accurately the impact of an ad in print? No. Can we measure accurately the impact of an ad in digital? Yes, based on the response. But the bigger question is, how many digital entities provide and offer you with this, skip this advertisement, where you will never see that in a magazine? See, the power of ads in print is not whether they have an impact or not, it's because of the relationship between the customer and the magazine. In some cases, you buy the magazine strictly because of the ads. And we never in print label the ads, skip this ad, or this ad will disappear in 15 seconds. We have to focus on our customers. That's why it is so important to create this platform for advertisers called ink on paper platform, that folks cannot skip it, but they look for it, they look after it. Let's see here. We have okay. I know. Okay, here's another question. Again, that's the beauty of technology. I mean, my computer is taking its sweet time in refreshing. So, what's a USP for a combined print digital magazine for both the consumer and the advertiser? What's the unique selling proposition for a combined print digital mag for both the consumer and the advertiser? Do we need to have a combined print and digital? See, my answer to that is we don't need to have a combined print and digital. The audiences are not necessarily the same. People who want to have me in print wants me in print. People who wants to have me in digital wants me in digital. So until the day comes we stop treating digital as a replica of print, that's when we start seeing the light. And that light then will end up being not the train coming. We have to stop treating digital as just a vehicle for replicas from print. It's a completely different medium. That's why, I can't stand it when people refer to magazines on the iPad or on digital or on the web as magazines. Can't we find a new name for this marvelous new medium that's out there? We have to come up with a new name. So I don't believe there should be a unique selling proposition for a combined print-digital magazine. What are some of the best ways to weave together your print magazine and its digital counterpart? Good ways to promoting the print issue online and the online issue in print. Start offering different things. You have to start offering different items. You have to, for example, I have this new book coming out next week, Just Common Sense. Every beginning of a chapter, I'm using the layer technology where you take your phone and scan that page, the beginning of the chapter, and for like 15-20 seconds, I will introduce you to the chapter or give you a little bit background about the chapter. So as you are reading the book, you're hearing me telling you a little bit about the chapter. That's what we can do. That's what we can, but you cannot, I'm not giving you the book or the entire chapter. I'm giving you 15 seconds of a Mr. Magazine moment about that chapter. That's the same thing. We have to do that in our business. We have to, don't give the entire store. We have created a welfare information society on our websites. We give too much free information. If you are really curator of content, you better start charging for that content you are creating, you are curating. Samir, very inspiring. What's your advice on a distribution model for a printed niche magazine? We have tried free in prestige locations, not liking newsstands. Thanks. Well, free distribution works if you have enough advertising to support the product. But free distribution has become more of a science by itself because you want to ensure the advertiser that those magazines are being placed in the right location, right place, reaching the right customer. So if you invest time in creating a distribution model that will identify people interested in your topic and people interested in the advertised goods in your magazine, that will help your survival. One of the things I tell people all the time, even if you have free distribution in some specific areas, do not underestimate testing or placing your magazine on the newsstands. You will be surprised when people see that magazine displayed with the rest of the other magazines that are out there. All of a sudden, if it has this call to pick me up, it's going to help you move from a free model to a consumer model. And by a consumer model, I mean like people who are willing to pay for the magazine. I just helped launch a new magazine for quail hunting. Cover price, $13, $12.99. The magazine sold more than 40% on the newsstands for the first issue. But when you look at the magazine, you have to say like, wow. And if you are a hunter, you have to say like, I must have this. I mean, this is a real want. Same thing here. I mean, it's like there's a lot of free distribution, a lot of companies who offer that to place your magazine anywhere. But again, if it does not reach the audience, if it does not reach the, I mean, you have to show whoever is picking up that magazine is interested in both the subject matter and in the advertised goods inside that magazine. Do you feel that print and digital have separate markets for subscriptions, or should all readers be driven to subscribe to both simultaneously? Definitely separate markets. Definitely. I mean, the person who buys my magazine on the newsstands, the person who looks for his magazine or her magazine in the mailbox is completely different than the person who's going to download an iPad. So do not, again, my advice, complement, do not compete. Nobody wants the same magazine in ink on paper and digital and on a tablet and on a smartphone all at the same time. Those people don't exist. I mean, I don't know where we came up with this idea that let's be there for everywhere for the same person. It does not happen. People have, I mean, trust the people. Trust what the people believe in and what the people want to have, and go with that. I am a volunteer for a non-profit trade magazine. The organization just went totally digital in January and is offering everything for one price. Help! How do we get the print back after going completely digital? Very simple. Look at what happened to all the major companies that use catalog to sell their business. From Victoria's Secret to J.Crew to Lands' End, you name it. You name any catalog company. Where they reduce the amount of print that they mail to the households, their sales declined. Last year, if you look at the numbers and you see the increase of catalogs people are receiving, there is something to be said to have that store in your hands, flipping through the pages and then going ordering. Same thing, whether you are non-profit or for-profit, any entity that's killing its print product and thinking they can survive on digital only does not exist yet. I mean, that's what I keep challenging people on my blog. I say, like, please name one entity of a print product that committed suicide, killed its print edition, and is thriving on the web or digitally. So far, nobody have commented. Nobody have been able to give me one single name. People are concerned about producing waste these days, thus people are less likely to kill a tree for something they can get online. You mentioned that radio did not kill print, TV did not kill radio or print, but those were different times. People did not care about saving trees. Well, guess what? Paper companies actually plant more trees than they cut. I mean, this is one of the myths. I mean, when you ask me why kill trees when it can be done in a more renewable way, would you like to come to my house and see how many gadgets I have that are all stacks, how many old computers, old CDs, old digital cameras, Polaroids, you name it? What do I do with these things? I mean, at least we are producing something that's recyclable. We are producing stuff that's recyclable, that we can recycle, we can do things with. So I mean, I think it's the extreme saying that we do not, I mean, we just find it online. You know how many computers I have that I don't know what to, I mean, nobody will even take them away from me. So think about that. How should an advertiser access digital versus print for placement of very scarce advertising dollars? It's so easy to be wooed by one format over the other. What can we do? Well, if we were in the business of wooing, then the answer will be very simple. Go with whoever woos you more. We are in the business of results. We are in the business of engagement. Let me give you an example. I subscribed to a digital magazine from the UK because it was only $3.99 on digital, where I was paying $12 a month to get it here in the United States in print. I used to spend, and I still do, 2 to 2.5 hours with that magazine. When I get my digital edition, I found myself after 10 minutes disengaged. So now, although I have the subscription that costs me $3.99, I go every month and still pay my $12 to get the print edition, because that's where the engagement is. Whom are you after? Who's your customer? Keep that in mind. And I will close with this, because I think that's the best advice I can give you. Forget digital, forget ink on paper. Focus on the customer. How much do you know about that customer? It's not digital first, it's not ink on paper first. It's customers first. Go after that customer. Thank you and have a great day.